This is CBC Radio 1, 990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg. The 2024 Giller Prize, celebrating 31 years of Canadian literary excellence. 5 outstanding authors, 5 celebrated books, and the winner will walk away with $100,000. It's one of the most prestigious and richest literary awards in the world. The 31st Annual Giller Prize. Tonight at 9, 10 Atlantic, 10:30 in Newfoundland on CBC Radio 1, on the Listen app, and on CBC Gem.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere. Download the CBC.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Rosanna Hempel. At 12 o'clock, it's +5 in Winnipeg. A mix of sun and cloud today, we've reached our high of +5. The widow of a cyclist killed by a speeding driver on Wellington Crescent spoke at a city committee this morning. She wants to reduce the speed limit where her husband died. The CBC's Cameron McLean reports.
The motion called to reduce the speed along Wellington between River Avenue and Kenaston Boulevard. Fort Rouge East Fort Garry councillor Sherry Rowlands wants to lower the speed limit from 50 to 30 kilometers per hour. Rowlands made the motion partly in response to the death of Rob Jenner. He died in June after a driver going more than 150 kilometers per hour crashed into him. His wife, Wendy Van Loon, told the City Centre Committee today she hopes lowering the speed limit will discourage drivers from using Wellington. River Heights councillor John Orlico raised concerns about changing the speed without the advice of city traffic engineers. The motion was amended to shorten the length of Wellington that would be reduced. If approved, it would begin at River Avenue and end at Academy Road. The motion passed unanimously. It now moves on to Public Works and needs final council approval. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
One of Winnipeg's more well-known sites is looking at ways to become more accessible. The Forks North Portage Partnership is one of 37 recipients of the province's annual Accessibility Funds grant. The province is handing out a total of $825,000 in grants to improve accessibility in businesses, municipalities, and nonprofits. Zach Peters at the Forks says the money will pay for an audit on the site's accessibility.
This audit is all-encompassing, covering what's here inside the Forks Market, outside on the pathways around the site, in our parking lots, around public art pieces that cross the site, and of course in winter all the way down to the river trail.
Manitoba Theatre for Young People is also receiving a $50,000 grant. It will be used to bring on American Sign Language interpreters for the deaf and hard of hearing. They'll also explore the possibility of audio description technology for the visually impaired. A renowned Canadian human rights advocate says he was recently told Iran was trying to kill him. Former federal cabinet minister Irwin Cotler has been a harsh critic of the Iranian regime. Catherine Cullen has more on the alleged plot.
Irwin Cotler says that late last month, the RCMP told him he faced imminent threat of assassination and that it was Iranian agents targeting him. The news was first reported by the Globe and Mail. Cotler was the federal government's last envoy on Holocaust remembrance and combating anti-Semitism. He's also a former Liberal cabinet minister and internationally renowned for his human rights advocacy. Cotler has been a vocal critic of the Iranian regime for years, campaigning in 2008 to list the country's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist entity. For the last year, Cotler has had 24/7 RCMP protection. Cotler says he was told the threat against him has now been reduced. The federal public safety minister's office declined to comment. Ottawa severed diplomatic ties with Iran more than a decade ago. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
It's day one of the G20 Summit in Rio de Janeiro. As host, Brazil wants the gathering to focus on eliminating poverty and hunger around the world. But geopolitics will dominate many of the leaders' meetings, including those of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Karina Roman reports.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau walked up a red-carpeted ramp to be greeted with a hug by Brazil's President Lula da Silva. This is where the leaders of the biggest 20 economies will meet for 2 days. Trudeau has 5 bilateral meetings with key leaders: Japan, the U.S., Italy, Mexico, and the U.K. For his sit-downs with his European counterparts and with U.S. President Joe Biden, Ukraine will be at the top of the agenda, as well as what to expect from a Donald Trump presidency. It's the first time Trudeau is meeting with the new leaders of Japan and Mexico. His talk with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum will likely focus on trade, in light of an impending renegotiation of the Canada-U.S.-Mexico free trade deal. Trudeau has not ruled out excluding Mexico if it doesn't join Canada and the U.S. in imposing tariffs on China-made electric vehicles. Karina Roman, CBC News, Rio de Janeiro.
With most of northern India experiencing record smog, diesel vehicles have now been banned from entering the capital. That's today's commute in New Delhi. The pollution is so thick that visibility is limited to 100 meters. Most elementary schools are moving their classes online, and all children and seniors are being urged to stay indoors. The gap is closing, but a new report shows that Canadian boys still participate in organized sports more than Canadian girls. Alison Sandmeyer-Graves is the CEO of Canadian Women in Sport.
Has to do with things like affordability, that has to do with things like avoiding injury, but it also has to do with things like creating an environment in which they can feel at their best, where they feel confident in their skills and abilities.
The rally report is showing that 63% of girls are involved in some kind of organized athletics. For boys, it's 68%. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 12:30.
Good afternoon, Manitoba. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Manitoba YouTube page. I'm Corey Funk. Good to be with you on this chilly, perhaps last kind of fall feeling day, because right now much of Western Manitoba is under a winter storm watch. We're going to have details on that for you throughout the show, but know that by Wednesday, this will be a good blanket of snow for you in Western Manitoba. But right now here on the show, feeding the birds with bits of bread is fun, but can cause serious health complications, including death. It's called angel wing syndrome. It's already preventing some birds from flying south for the winter. Plus, this half hour on the show, after a woman and her 8-year-old daughter died in a fatal crash near Altona on Friday, we'll hear from the girls' grandparents about the impact it's having on their family. Well, family and friends in southern Manitoba are mourning the death of a mother and daughter who died in a car crash last week. 35-year-old Sarah Unger and her 8-year-old daughter Alexa Unger were driving home from the grocery store Friday evening. RCMP say a 25-year-old semi-driver from Brampton, Ontario, was heading eastbound on Highway 201 and went through a stop sign, hitting the Unger's car. Peter and Susan Unger are Sarah's in-laws and Alexa's grandparents. They spoke to CBC's Arturo Chang.
As soon as we heard the news here, from here, we packed up our vehicle from Ontario and drove straight over here to Manitoba to comfort our son and his wife that she lost her life. And it's a very tragic thing that happened here because this is an open area. You can see either way for miles. Should have seen somebody coming and failed to stop. That's a very bad thing for a truck driver to do. I'm a truck driver myself, and I know it's a big rig like that. It's 80,000 pounds versus a 3,500 pounds vehicle. It's like a mosquito gets swapped by a giant. It shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, she was only 35 years old.
Yeah, lots of life left on her, you know. And
she left an 10-year-old boy behind.
10-year-old, yeah, and a very good marriage they had, and a loving home. And now he has to live with this all his life. That he lost his life.
That must been so horrible for you.
It was horrible.
It is horrible.
How are you?
I broke down. I was at work when they called me, so they didn't let me go home right away because I totally broke down. Nobody wants to lose their children like this, ever. We have more children, one in Winkler and one in Gratna. We love them all, but this is like a big shock to everybody, to the whole family. It's been very hard.
How long have you been in town?
Since yesterday.
Since last night, 12 o'clock. We arrived here yesterday.
You know, you have so much pain, but still you decided to come here. Why did you decide to come here?
I wanted to see the spot where my daughter had to give up her life so instantly, so sudden. It's just too much.
Can you tell me about your daughter? Who was she as a person?
My daughter-in-law?
Your daughter-in-law, sorry.
Yeah, she was a very Christian woman. She is a school teacher in church. She homeschools her own children at home. She was very close to them. She had a little dog and a couple of goats just for the kids. She was very special to us. We love her just like our own daughters.
Like I said, a life cut short, but also Alexa.
Alexa was a hyper little girl. She was full of energy all the time and always hugging us when she comes sit on our lap, just wanted to do stuff with us.
May I ask, how is your son doing?
He just totally collapsed yesterday because of this. He lost his wife.
His family.
He collapsed. It's very, very hard for him. He don't want to even talk to me yet because he felt so down. So we're over to him. We're for lunch going over there to talk to him and comfort him and see if we can't make it better, because once you lose a loved one like this, it's very hard to cope for that. He's going to be grieving for a long time.
That's Peter and Susan Unger speaking with CBC's Arturo Chang. They're the in-laws of Sarah Unger and grandparents to her daughter Alexa Unger, who died in a crash just west of Altona on Friday. No charges against the semi-driver have been laid yet, but RCMP say on Saturday they are expected.
Your local news at your fingertips.
CBC News has a local news app made for your phone or tablet.
So don't waste time scrolling for the local stories you want. Just download the app to get the information that matters to you when it happens.
And how you want it.
Another way to get your local news. The CBC News app. Download it today.
You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Corey Funk. Let's take a look at your weather right now. Much of western Manitoba is under a winter storm watch that includes cities like Brandon and Dauphin. And just to give you a bit of a look ahead here in Brandon, the rain is going to start overnight tonight into Tuesday, and that's going to quickly change over to snow as the temperatures fall below freezing. You can expect about 10 to 15 centimeters of snow for Brandon, but could even see 20 centimeters in the Riding Mountain area by Wednesday at noon. Here in Winnipeg, it's going to be a little more rainy than snowy. It's going to start Tuesday morning here, the rain, and that's going to stay rain for most of the day until changing over to snow late Tuesday afternoon. Total snow we'll probably see when all thing is said and done on Wednesday, 2 to 5 centimeters of snow. And the top end of that system is going to be going all the way up into Flin Flon and Thompson. We're going to have more details with you after your 12:30 news. But in terms of current conditions right now in the province, hotspots McCreary at 9. Cold spot Flin Flon is -2 right now. Brandon, mostly cloudy, 1. Churchill at the airport, 1 right now. Sunny and Dauphin at the airport, you're sitting right at 0. Pinawa, 5 degrees right now. Portage, cloudy, 2 degrees right now. Thompson, you are 0 right now with some mist at the airport. And Winnipeg at the Forks, 4 and mostly cloudy. Well, tossing a chunk of bread to a duck might seem like a good idea, but The reality is it just isn't. People do it with the best intentions, but can cause serious health issues, even death to the birds. Feeding bread to a waterfowl can cause angel wing syndrome, it's called. And Carter Phillips is a wildlife rehabilitation manager at Wildlife Haven Rehabilitation Center in Ile-des-Chênes. And he spoke with CBC's Lori Hoogstraten.
So angel wing syndrome occurs in any waterfowl species is where we mainly see it. And basically, it's a condition that causes the last carpal joint in the wrist to twist outwards, making the primary flight feathers point laterally outwards, caused from excessive intake of carbohydrate, basically, preventing the wing from developing correctly, and then later on preventing them from being able to fly.
So excessive carbohydrate intake, what should they be getting instead?
Natural diet. So whatever they'd eat naturally in the wild, whether that's duckweed, grass, cattails, pickleweed, anything kind of in that natural regard. The biggest issue comes from when humans are trying to innocently help by feeding them. But it's those excessive carbohydrates like bread and corn and different types of beans and things like that, where it can cause more harm than good for them.
I want to ask you more about that, but I also want to, why is it called angel wing syndrome?
It's a great question. I think the way it kind of twists the wings less kind of in line with their back and sticks out more like when you would picture an angel. So really it's just kind of how it looks.
And is it quite easy to spot?
It is, yeah. So especially once it gets to the more severe side of things, it doesn't look right. Normally, the wings are very symmetrical, sitting along the sides and the back of the bird. When you do see angel wing, it sticks like perpendicularly out from the body.
And how common is it?
It's quite common. We see quite a bit of it. And it is something that can be fixable if caught early enough and then corrected with proper diet and then some medical treatment. But if it's left unchecked for too long, that wing can be permanently developed that way, and then we'll never be able to fly again.
And what's too long? Do you see birds recover from it by themselves? You said there's treatment, but can they just, if they just switch to a better diet, even in the wild, can it help?
Yeah, so if it's caught early enough, like sometimes we will see, like we'll have birds that come in with the beginning stages of angel wing. And then as soon as we have them on a normal diet, that will resolve itself. In the more severe cases, sometimes we have to get a little more involved and wrap those wings back into a position, a normal position, sitting position for them, so that it continues to develop that way while the proper diet kind of does its work and helps it develop normally.
And if they do develop angel wing syndrome, you're saying they are essentially flightless once it gets too far along.
Yes, yeah.
And then, of course, they're, well, not to use it, sitting ducks, I suppose. Predators are going to get them, yeah. And are there particular birds that are susceptible to angel wing?
I said kind of any kind of waterfowl. So we see a lot of geese that get it. Ducks are also very susceptible. Swans can get it.
And is this
those water birds that we see are the ones that we see the most of?
Right, the water birds. And is that because people tend to throw bread on the water, or are they somehow...
Exactly, yeah. So bread is one of the worst things that you can give to feed water birds, and that's normally what people go and do feed. And in those cases, it can cause angel wing, and then it can also cause other issues like crop impaction. So best to either do a natural diet or not feed at all.
Yeah, and of course, with our long fall this year, the birds tend to be hanging around and lots of people getting out enjoying walking along the lake and that sort of thing. So if people are going to feed them, because it is kind of fun to see them come in, what do you recommend?
We actually recommend not feeding them at all. Just kind of appreciating them from a distance and watching them enjoy their natural diet. Because like you said, this has been a very mild fall so far for us, which is pretty unheard of. So there's still plenty of natural vegetation for them to be eating. So we normally recommend just enjoying them from afar and not getting involved in feeding them anything.
Yeah. And what do you advise if people see an injured bird? What should they do?
give us a call. We are always more than happy to kind of work through that situation with you and determine over the phone whether like it is an injury that can be helped and that we can take, or if we feel like it's maybe something that we're not so sure about, we can also sometimes send one of our volunteers out to go and assess the situation before it comes in. But always feel free to give us a call. We're more than happy to help anybody through anything that they're seeing and kind of relieve any stress that anybody has when they see an injured animal.
But bottom line, don't feed the birds.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you very much for being with us, Carter.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's Carter Phillips. He's a rehabilitation manager with the Wildlife Haven Rehabilitation Center. He was speaking with CBC's Lori Hoogstraat.
Manitoba's the kind of place that draws you in. Every day it's growing, it's changing. Just when you think you've got it figured out, though, there's something new to understand. I'm Marcy Marcusa, host of the CBC Daily Podcast. This is Manitoba. I've covered the news from the rail line in Churchill to the border in Emerson, and it's talking about the local stories that help us understand this place. That's what This is Manitoba is all about. Find it on CBC Listen or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Time now is 12:20. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1. I know that last bird story was a bit of a bummer, so we kind of want to balance it out with maybe a more positive, uplifting bird story, if you will. A father-son pilot duo from Kitchener, Ontario, part of a rescue mission that involved flying more than 1,300 kilometers to transport an injured bald eagle. And Paul Salvini and his son, 20-year-old son Kai, are volunteer pilots with the Canadian Wings of Rescue. The charity organization provides free transportation for abused, abandoned, and injured animals around the country to get the care they need. And in the most recent case, a bald eagle was found critically injured in Thunder Bay and needed specialized surgery to fix a complex wing break in Caledon, Ontario. So CBC's Karis Mapp met up with the two rescuers.
Flying is something Paul Salvini says he's been doing since the mid-90s, so when an opportunity arose to combine his passion for aviation with rescuing animals with his son Kai, he was elated.
I was reading a magazine, actually, one of the magazines for general aviation pilots, and there was an article about the Canadian Wings of Rescue and the work that they were doing to help rescue pets using planes like ours, and immediately thought, that's perfect for us.
Kai, who is following in his father's footsteps, got his pilot license last November and is currently studying computer sciences at Wilfrid Laurier University.
I would say I do the majority of the flying, just trying to get more experience and more diverse experience as well. These flights provide lots of little things that you don't always get just staying in the area flying.
After flying two great horned owls to be released in Thunder Bay this past September, the pair was faced with a more fragile situation only a month later.
Print 042 Tower, stand my frequency for now, wind 1503 knots, clear takeoff runway 08.
Takeoff 08, we'll stay with you, Print 042.
The bald eagle was a little bit different because it was more of an emergency transportation, so they sent out an email to the pilots, and I remember I was just finishing up a homework assignment before going to bed, and I called my dad and I was like, we could do this, I gotta finish my math lab at 10 a.m., but after that, we can do it.
Once they arrived, the bird was carefully placed in the back of their cab and they were set for takeoff.
He wasn't doing well, so they had a blanket over his crate just to keep light out so he could rest and stuff like that. We do the best that we can to avoid any turbulence or any problems like that would arise in the air, but other than that, that's about the extent of of what we can do. Like we saw the x-ray of the break, and we wanted to make it as smooth of a flight as possible for the bird, because I could imagine that any movement in that area would be causing great pain.
A trip like Thunder Bay is really a perfect one to do in a small plane. It's a long drive. It's probably about a 15-hour drive each way, and in a plane like ours, it's about 3.5 hours each way. And while we did have to stop for fuel and a break on the way up, because of some of the headwinds, we had much more favorable winds on the way back, and so we're able to do that in one trip.
Unfortunately, once landed and taken in for surgery, the bald eagle died of its injuries. But the Salvinis say they'll continue doing their part to help the animals in any way they can. The added bonus is getting to do it while spending quality time together.
I think, any father will know any time you can spend time with your son, especially at this age, is quite special. So to be able to have an activity like aviation that we love, something we share a passion for, and then to have that added purpose with being able to help others is pretty incredible.
Karis Mapp, CBC News, Breslau.
So I guess maybe not as uplifting as maybe we might have promised, but at least a little bit more uplifting than the previous story. So, yeah, didn't expect the eagle to die there. CBC's Karis Mapp in Ontario. And if you want to see a video of Paul and Kai Salvini and their plane, just go to cbc.ca/KW.
It began with a lamb selling crinkle-proof ties. Then a stickman named Ready Kilowatt added a jolt. But marketing really got wild when a striped fella named Tony showed up at breakfast.
Good, they're great!
Put a tiger in your tank. Advertising gets animated on Under the Influence with Terry O'Reilly, Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
New this month on CBC Gem.
You're trending.
Fantastic.
You retweeted a white supremacist.
Retweeted a what? An author goes viral and is hit with a major plot twist, a son he never knew.
I'm on a quest to understand who I am and where I come from.
Now they're both on a journey to find themselves.
A beloved children's author getting to know his long-lost autistic son. There could be a book in it.
Could be a documentary.
The heartwarming series, Austin. Watch free on CBC Gem.
12:25 right now, and you want to stay tuned if you are a Taylor Swift fan, or even if you're not. Coming up, we're going to talk Taylor Swift, Swiftomania. We're going to open up the lines and ask you, why do you love Taylor Swift? Or maybe you don't understand Taylor Swift and you want to know more, and you can tell us why maybe you don't understand Taylor Swift. I kind of fall in that camp, I'll be perfectly honest. We're also going to be joined by a self-proclaimed Manitoba Swiftie who's going to explain why she loves Taylor Swift. We're going to talk all about it and Swiftomania and the phenomena that is Taylor Swift coming up in our call-in conversation after 12:35. But first, we want to talk a little bit about another country star. Jelly Roll played a few dates in Canada this year, and it must have gone well because now the rapper and country music star has announced a headlining cross-country tour for 2025, including a stop right here in Winnipeg. Jelly Roll will take the stage at Canada Life Centre on March 17th. And here he is now. This song is called I'm Not Okay.
I am not okay. I'm barely getting by. I'm losing track of days, losing sleep at night. I am not okay. I'm hanging on the rails. So if I say I'm fine, just know I learned to hide it well. I know I can't be the only one who's holding on for dear life. But God knows, I know, when it's all said and done, I'm not okay, but it's all gonna be alright. It's not okay, but we're all gonna be alright. I woke up today, I almost stayed in bed, had the devil on my back and voices in my head. Some days it ain't all bad, some days it all gets worse. Some days I swear I'm better off laying in that dirt. I know I can't be the only one who's holding on for dear life. But God knows, I know, when it's all said and done, I'm not okay, but it's all gonna be alright. It's not okay, but we're all gonna be alright. Gonna be alright. Gonna be alright. other side, the pain will wash away in a holy water tide, and we all gonna be alright. I know I can't be the only one who's holding on for dear life, but God knows, I know when it's all said and done, I'm not okay, but it's all.
That's Jelly Roll with I'm Not Okay. You can catch him at the Canada Life Centre on March 17th. And stay tuned. We're going to keep talking music, particularly, I guess you can call it country, pop. What is Taylor Swift? Why is she so popular? We're going to have a Swiftie join us to talk about why she thinks she's the best. And you can say why you don't think so either. We're opening up our call-in conversation after your 12:30 news.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Rosanna Hempel. At 12:30, it's +4 in Winnipeg. A mix of sun and cloud today, a high of +7. The widow of a cyclist killed by a speeding driver on Wellington Crescent spoke at a city committee this morning. She wants to reduce the speed limit where her husband died in June. A motion this morning called to reduce the speed along Wellington between River Avenue and Kenniston Boulevard. Councillor Sherry Rollins wants to lower the speed limit from 50 to 30 kilometers per hour. Rollins made the motion partly in response to Rob Jenner's death. The motion was amended to shorten the length of Wellington that would be reduced. If approved, it would begin at River Avenue and end at Academy Road. The motion passed unanimously. It now moves on to Public Works and needs final council approval. Making one of Winnipeg's most popular attractions more accessible. That's the goal of an audit being performed at the Forks North Portage Partnership. It's one of 37 groups being awarded grants of up to $50,000 each. Zach Peters speaks for the Forks. He says the audit will look at everything from buildings to the grounds.
It's important for us to understand where there may be accessibility gaps, both in winter and summer, as our landscape changes seasonally. The summer review has been completed, and the Manitoba League for Persons with Disabilities will continue their work this winter in a few short months.
The province is giving out a total of $825,000 in accessibility grants this year. Quebec's government is reaffirming its commitment to women's reproductive rights. The province is considering increased access to abortion services and contraception, no matter where they live in the province. The province's Minister for the Status of Women, Martine Biron, says it's important to ensure women get the care and support they need.
The main objective of this plan is to protect the rights of women to choose abortion. In the context where women's rights are declining around the world, it's a plan to improve access. We present today a plan with 28 actions and 4 big objectives.
The 4 priorities include improving access to abortion services outside of the Montreal region. The $7.5 million plan also includes measures to fight disinformation and to carry out more research. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 1:30.
Rosanna, would you consider yourself a Swiftie?
I like Taylor Swift, but I haven't lined up to get a ticket to see a show, no.
Okay, so a Taylor Swift listener, but not full-on Swiftie.
I wouldn't identify as a Swiftie, but I do like her music.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, thank you very much, Rosanna.
You're welcome.
That's Rosanna Hempel at our CBC news desk. And I don't know if, Riley, if you are a Swiftie or not.
No.
No, okay.
Not really my thing.
But you know it is Swift, this weather system coming in.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know if I'd exactly call it swift or
I
not.
guess so. I just tried to transition.
It's going to be a bit of a prolonged, maybe the opposite. Yeah, there's lots to talk about today. I'll start with the winter storm watch that's in place that since this time yesterday, or since the afternoon hours yesterday, has been expanded further to the east now into Headingley, St. Francis Xavier, Portage La Prairie, Morden Winkler now in this winter storm watch through the Westman region, Dauphin, Swan River, the Pas, Flin Flon, all the way up to Lynn Lake. This area of low pressure that we're expecting to move into the province will impact pretty much all of us in some way, shape, or form. No other way of putting that as we get through the next couple of days here. So right now, we're starting to see a bit of cloud building into southern Manitoba. Winnipeg, I'm thinking a mix of sun and clouds for the afternoon, but certainly we introduce a little bit more cloud as we get through the later afternoon hours today for sure. Bit of a trough line that is moving in concert with this area of low pressure developing south of the border, bringing some rain and some snow into southeastern Saskatchewan and a few showers into western Manitoba through the afternoon hours today. This area of low pressure is still working its way northward through Nebraska right now, Kansas, into Oklahoma even, and this is just making its way almost due north. And this is what we're looking at moving into Manitoba as we get into the next 24, even I'm going to say the next 18 hours or so here. So as we get through the rest of the day, cloud starts to build in, but we will see some sunny breaks here in Winnipeg through the afternoon hours. Into the morning, by 6:30, we are already into the rain across southern Manitoba. So even by 7, 8 o'clock, Winnipeg into the rain, Fort Francis, Kenora, Dryden, into that rain as well, Portage La Prairie, and starting to see that transition early in the morning tomorrow over to snow for the Westman region, and that just continues as we get through the rest of the day Tuesday. Some of the forecast modeling, at least our in-house modeling, wants to make that transition from rain over to snow for the Winnipeg region through the afternoon hours tomorrow. Temperature-wise, I don't think that's happening until after supper tomorrow. So I think we've got a rainy day in Winnipeg tomorrow, but certainly south, north, and west of the city, even as far north as Flin Flon, Thompson, Lynn Lake, into the snow by the afternoon hours tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a very messy one, especially through the afternoon hours. Combine that with winds in the afternoon tomorrow, especially in the west, picking up northwest by the late afternoon, 60 gusting 80 in the afternoon. So we're looking at some very messy conditions, which continue overnight Tuesday into Wednesday. That's when we see that transition in Winnipeg over to snow. And then we start to see that tapering off through the afternoon hours, at least in the south here in the Winnipeg region. Snowfall, general 10 to 20 centimeters west of Winnipeg to the Saskatchewan border. Even the higher elevations, the Duck Mountains, the Riding Mountains, into the northern part of the province, up to 30 centimeters, not out of the question. Winnipeg, most of this is a rain event, so I've got Winnipeg in that 2 to 4 centimeter range coming by the time we get to this time on Wednesday, but 10 to 20 millimeters of rain, and certainly into that 20 to 30 millimeters of rain through parts of northwestern Ontario. So it's going to be a bit of a messy one. And along with this, and what's a bit difficult with this one is very quickly temperatures that will be right on the freezing mark. So when we exactly see that transition over to more of a snow event for Winnipeg, I'm kind of putting the bullseye right now on the supper hour Tuesday, give or take a couple of hours depending on those temperatures. So I've got 7 degrees for Winnipeg today. We start at 3 tomorrow, drop down to 0 by the afternoon. 1 degree for Wednesday, 0 for Thursday, and -4 for Friday.
Gross.
Yeah.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
That's Riley Lechuk, our CBC climate change reporter and weather specialist. So I guess we just have to shake it off, that weather report, and move on, because we are talking about Swift mania. It's descended on Toronto and it's heading to Vancouver next month. And Taylor Swift has earned the titles of stardom, from America's sweetheart and now Canada's to the Princess of Country and even the Queen of Pop. Even Ringo Starr has compared Swiftomania to Beatlemania of the 1960s, and now she's a financial engine for Toronto, projected to generate $282 million to the local economy. So our call-in question today is, why do you think Taylor Swift is so darn popular? Is it her music, her message, her talent, her showmanship, her fashion, her love of cats? What is it? And I am genuinely curious, because I can't say I identify as a Swiftie, but we do have a Swiftie standing by. We're going to talk to her right away. But first, we want to hear from you as well. Give us a call. We're opening up our lines right now. You can call us at 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. You can also text us if you'd like, 204-788-7355. That's 204-788-7355. And you can't just send like fun emojis. You got to actually like use words. Just heads up on that. So our guest today is Indiana Humniski, Manitoba Swiftie from Gimli. Hello there.
Hello.
So Indiana, I just want to start. Why are you a Swiftie? Why would you identify? You know, like we heard from Rosanna, she likes Taylor Swift, but she's in a Swiftie. What makes you a Swiftie?
I would say that being a Swiftie is all about supporting other people who are also into Taylor Swift. So I had a little bit of a conversation before we hopped on air about why I wasn't going to the Toronto show. I think I was very fortunate to go to the Minnesota show 2 summers ago. I just wrote it down. It was June 24th, 2023. And it was a huge show. I mean, it was in the Viking Stadium. It was fantastic. I think that there is a certain element to that, I think I phrased it on the phone as sitting down and letting other Swifties take the center stage. There were a lot of Canadian Swifties who were really disappointed that there weren't more Canadian shows. This was a re-release of more shows coming to Toronto and then going into Vancouver later on in the month. I think I chose not to go, number one, because these weekends can cost $10,000, $15,000. I'm a student. I'm joining you from the dorms at University of Manitoba. But also, I think there's so many friends that I had who were in the same pre-sale lines as me 2 years ago, almost to the day, when I was searching for Taylor Swift tickets. And there were, I think, only 2 Toronto shows originally. And now she's expanded it to so many. Like one of my mother's sister, her granddaughter, she's going to a Toronto show. And we asked her, we thought it was this weekend. We were like, hey, which show is Leia going to? And it turns out she was going next Friday, so this upcoming Friday. She's in there for a while, and we were actually talking in my house if she was going to be going to the Grey Cup the other day, because Jason Kelsey was posting about the Super Bowl, cheering for the Bombers, for Colaris. And I just think being able to kind of support the trek and the pilgrimages of your fellow Swifties, I think, is a part of it. And also, I think just, there's always the live streams when you can watch that. And just, I think it's the secret songs are the more exciting ones. She does different surprise songs every concert, which keeps it a bit of a ephemeral, temporary experience that's special to every show.
So, I mean, I'm just curious what got you into Taylor Swift even in the first place. Is it something you kind of grew up with? Like, kind of give us a sense of why Taylor Swift music in particular. Why not someone else? Like, why not, I don't know, Madonna or something like that,
Yeah, I think, originally I had an iPod Touch. I remember getting it from my dad and I cried. I was so excited. And I downloaded a couple songs like We Are Never Getting Back Together. I got into it after the original Red era. So that's actually the last tour that she was in Winnipeg for with Ed Sheeran. I got into it a little bit in middle school. And then when Folklore and Evermore came out during the pandemic, that's when I really stepped into the kind of Swiftie lifestyle, I guess you want to call it. Because I'm an English major. I really loved the words she was using. I think it was just very creative and beautifully evocative lyrics. I really liked the lyrical analysis part of Taylor Swift because, I've talked to a lot of people. They're kind of iffy on Taylor as a person, and kind of as an image of pop. And then there's a lot of comparisons. Like I have friends who prefer, Bob Dylan, or I just went to a Bruce Springsteen concert. My dad loves Bruce Springsteen. She also loves Taylor Swift, fun fact. And yeah, I think just her lyrics, her songs are beautiful. But honestly, I think you could print out a Taylor Swift song and somebody could see it as poetry. There have actually been people who have done that, comparing it to like Shakespeare lines and going like, is it Shakespeare or is it Swift? And a lot of people get it wrong, surprisingly. It's not always the radio songs. It's, digging a little deeper and looking for some of the poetry behind those lines that maybe might not get airtime, but certainly are on a lot of Swifties' hearts.
Are you one of you're a Swiftie like Indiana? Give us a call, 204-780-0893. Tell us why you like Taylor Swift, but also if you're like me and maybe you just don't quite get it, share why. Maybe, maybe you have some questions for Indiana. Maybe you've always wanted to be like, I just don't get it. Give us a call. As you can hear, she's lovely and be happy to answer. 204-780-0893. You could also text us, 204-788-7355. I'm just curious. Like, it's one thing to be like there's big stars out there, but I feel like Taylor Swift has hit a whole new level. Do you like? To me, it kind of almost feels like I don't quite understand why she's hit that whole extra level. Like you've even heard Ringo Starr compare it to Beatlemania, which I personally think might be a bit of a stretch. But do you think that it's overblown, or do you think that she's worthy of this level of star that she's hit?
Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting to look at because even though she has hit such a skyrocketing level of success, people still have that parasocial connection to her, feeling like she's like a close friend, that sort of thing. I think she's deserving of it. I have this conversation.
Do you feel like that? Do you feel like that?
I do feel like that because I think, she has a song that outlines this whole experience it's called The Man. It's from her A Lover album. I think a lot of people kind of discount her and her success because of her being a woman, and she does talk about that a lot. But I think I talk about this with my mom a lot about her business savvy. I think she's a smart businesswoman. I think she knows what's marketable and she knows what sells, but I think she also knows what connects with people. And, my dad has a lot of jokes about, she's written about everything, but it's true. And I think that's a reason why so many people are able to connect with her if they give her a chance, because she has written about almost every experience. And she's actually gone on to do more kind of fictionalized narratives in her songs, like Betty, Cardigan, that sort of thing, and August. Just writing about lives outside of herself, because those autobiographical snippets are things that Swifties love. But also I think she's kind of taken on a new folk turn a little bit of talking about these kind of fictionalized narratives and tales of people that maybe don't exist, but feel very real because of her lyricism.
Has she played, okay, I keep hearing things like you've even said, referred to it as a pilgrimage going there. Is there almost like a religious aspect to it? Is that too far to go with this?
I will say there is a song, Don't Blame Me, which is in the Reputation part of the tour, where there's a big kind of drum beat and a little bit of a break, and some people shout out like, "Take me to church, Taylor." Like, I think that this, if we want to call it the Church of Taylor, I think it does exist, and I think that ties into the parasocial relationship that a lot of fans have with her. I mean, her song So Long London that just came out on this last album, it starts with like a church bells and almost a chorus that kind of welcomes you into the song. I mean, I think the religious element, I think a lot of people in Beatlemania would have, prayed to the chapel of Lenin and stuff like that. Like, I think that, I don't know, I think she somehow balances this superstardom and a seemingly approachable persona. And I think it's a delicate balance that it's rare for me to see that in other pop stars in the general public.
I know it feels like this era's tour in particular is quite like different. It's got that extra kind of glow to it. You went to Minneapolis, like you said, 2 years ago. What was that like for you?
It was fantastic. I went with my best friend Saffron Blaze, and we went to the tour. It kind of made it a little bit of a trip out of it. I have some friends out in Minnesota. I stayed with my Uncle Freddie and my Aunt Denise, and it was very nice. I mean, everybody on the plane was a Taylor Swift fan, which is fantastic. I mean, Toronto is crawling with Swifties right now, and I think it's just fantastic. And then people are even going to I believe it's called the tailgate, like the Taylor tailgate before, even if they don't have tickets to the show, still going to just be around the general crowd dynamic. And I mean, I described it to my dad. We went to the Bruce Springsteen show this last Wednesday in Winnipeg. It was the complete opposite dynamic in the Taylor Swift crowd versus the Bruce Springsteen crowd. And I felt, even though I was in a crowd of literal thousands, I felt so safe because it was with everybody my own age. It was lots of young girls and their mothers, which is another thing. Taylor Swift raised a lot of millennials who have now become mothers who have daughters who were raised to, lullabies of Taylor Swift. And it's just a beautiful transition into the next generation of little Swift fans who are there with their parents or with other supportive people. I went with my best friend, as I said, and it was awesome. I mean, we were also standing next to a couple who were in their 60s. And I was kind of, when I saw them, I was thinking, is there like a granddaughter that's going to be coming or something like that, or a daughter? No, they were just there because they loved her and they were Minnesotan and they wanted to come support. And I mean, the Eras Tour isn't exactly a tour that you go and buy tickets to, very expensive tickets to, just because you like to go to concerts. You're going there for her and for the music. Now, maybe a little bit more for the spectacle, but certainly at that beginning of the concert, it was very much, like I said earlier, a pilgrimage of people who absolutely love her and have loved her for a long time, which is really fun.
If what Indiana's talking about here, if you identify with anything she's saying, or maybe want to add to the conversation, if you're a Swiftie, tell us why you're a Swiftie. 204-780-0893. Or if you don't understand anything that Indiana is saying, I don't get it, why is she so appealing? You can come and air your grievances as well. I get it. 204-780-0893. And Indiana, I'm sure, would be happy to explain as well. Before we let you go here, I do want to hear what your favorite song is.
Yeah, my favorite song, I would say, is probably Ivy off of the Evermore album, which is kind of jokingly called the Forgotten album for Taylor Swift, where it came out after Folklore was like a sister album. As I said, I think before, I'm an English student. I love looking for lyrical connections to classic literature in Taylor Swift. So with this one, it's very Jane Eyre reminiscent. There are a lot of beautiful lines in it. Yeah, I think it's just gorgeous, very whimsical, very cottagecore, and I don't know, I think it's just one of her best written songs yet.
Well, Indiana, we'll leave it there. Thanks for joining in this afternoon, and all the best. I hope you go to many more Eras tours ahead.
Perfect, thank you.
I don't know if that's a Swiftie sign-off. I don't know if there's a special Swiftie goodbye out there, but...
Oh, no, I think we can just hit it with a wave. I think we're good.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Okay, thanks a lot, Indiana. That's Indiana Haminsky, a Manitoba Swiftie from Gimli. Well, we heard there about Ivy, so I thought, may as well play it. Here's Taylor Swift with Ivy.
I was one to know I'd meet you where the spirit meets the bones in a faith forgotten land. In from the snow, your touch brought forth an incandescent glow, tarnished but so grand. And the old widow goes to the stone every day, but I don't, I just sit here and wait, grieving for the living. Oh, I can't, my pain pits in the palm of your freezing hand, taking mine, but it's been promised to another. Oh, I can't stop you putting roots in my dreamland, my house of stone, your ivy grows, and now I'm covered in you. I wish to know the fatal flaw that makes you long to be magnificently cursed. He's in the room, your opal eyes are all I wish to see. He wants what's only yours. Oh, I can't, my pain fits in the palm of your freezing hand, taking mine, but it's been promised to another. Oh, I can't stop you putting roots in my dreamland, my house of stone, your ivy grows, and now I'm covered. Clover blooms in the fields, spring breaks loose, the time is near. What would he do if he found us out? Crescent moon, coast is clear, spring breaks loose, but so does fear. He's gonna burn this house to the ground.
That's Taylor Swift with Ivy. Well, if you happen to be flying to Toronto this week and you see someone just kind of sitting there without any headphones on listening to Taylor Swift or anything, it's actually becoming a more common trend, a travel trend that involves people flying on airplanes without any outside entertainment to pass the time has taken off online. Various influential people have posted pictures of themselves just doing nothing. And while it's hard to tell how many passengers are actually engaging in the practice, as CBC's Blair Sanderson discovers, the idea reveals a lot about the unique experience of flying.
For many travelers, the experience of being on an airplane is one that is to be endured, not savored. Here in this departures area, passengers wait to board with a plan to distract themselves as much as possible.
I have to have either a book and or stuff downloaded to watch on TV or movies like on Netflix, on my phone or iPad.
Nicole Tanner says she's put a lot of thought into her in-flight itinerary, and her expected travel time is only an hour and a half. Fellow passengers Jared Watson and Lily Porter agree they need all the help they can get to take their minds off of their surroundings.
It's kind of weird too because you're squished in with a lot of random people and stuff for long periods of time. Not a fun part.
I need to be distracted, to be honest. I need the time to pass a little quicker.
Waiting for it to stop and get off.
But these days, there's a subset of travelers heading in a different direction when it comes to flying, and it's generating a lot of discussion online.
There's a really weird new trend. It's called raw dogging flights.
Raw dogging has become the buzziest travel trend of the summer.
Where when you're on a flight and you just sit there, you don't listen to music, you don't drink water, you don't eat the snacks, you don't get on your computer, you just sit there and raw dog it the whole time.
Literally just staring straight ahead the entire time?
This unfortunate expression, raw dogging, originally came into popular culture as a term for unprotected sex, but now it's really taken off through its association with flying. And while it might seem like a strange thing to want to do, there are some who understand the appeal.
Hi, my name is Autumn Grant. I am a mother, a woman, an adventurer, the co-founder of Flow Meditation and Wellness.
As a meditation leader, Autumn Grant says being on a plane can present an interesting shift in perspective. You're suddenly in a totally different environment, disconnected from the usual demands of everyday life.
You know, the whole idea of raw dogging it is, it's funny, it's vulgar, but it also is really amazing because it forces us to tune inward. And when we're flying, we already are taken out of our regular routines and our everyday lives. And, you know, we're flying through the air, and it's really quite miraculous when you come to think about it. And I think that it undeniably has given us this opportunity to shift our thought process and our patterns and our habits.
Clinical psychologist Diana Hill agrees. She hosts the Wise Effort podcast, in which she sometimes discusses the value of disconnecting.
If you can go onto an airplane where nobody is expecting you to be responding to their email, nobody's expecting you to like or not like their post, it is an opportunity for you to reset your nervous system, your dopamine system, and maybe give yourself a little bit of a break from all of that overstimulation.
We should note it's not clear if this is why people are engaging in this activity. Some posting online seem to be treating it more as an endurance challenge, boasting of personal bests of 10, 12, even 15 hours. Meanwhile, back at the airport, Nicole Tanner says she'll skip the self-reflection and watch a movie instead. But she is familiar with people giving it a try.
I've definitely sat next to someone who's done it. It was a 6-hour flight to the UK, and he sat there and did nothing the entire time.
Were you alarmed by that?
I was, actually. I was very alarmed. I told so many people afterwards.
At the time, Tanner says she didn't know the popular term for what she had witnessed, but now she's feeling more grounded in the vernacular of raw dogging a flight. For CBC Radio, I'm Blair Sanderson.
Man, after flying with a baby, I would give anything to just sit there on a flight for hours on end and just do nothing. It would be incredible. Some health experts, though, just a reminder, have also weighed in on the phenomenon, and they warn, especially for long flights, that not eating or drinking on long flights can lead to dehydration, dizziness, and exhaustion, and also say it's a good idea to get up from your seat every once in a while to prevent blood clots from forming in your leg. So that's just putting that out there. Emily Brass is here in studio.
Corey, all you can think about is how you might fall asleep on that plane.
I would love to just sleep. Yeah, there's no way I would just sit there consciously. I would definitely pass out the whole thing. I would love to just sleep on a plane.
Flight? What flight? We're there.
Exactly. That's usually my style when I don't have a baby in tow. Emily Brass is hosting Up to Speed this afternoon. And what kind of stories are you working on?
Well, Corey, shoppers across Manitoba, actually across North America, are making their shopping lists ahead of Black Friday, which is coming up next week. But with the strike at Canada Post, some small business owners in Manitoba are worried they might get stuck on the sidelines now that so many sales are done online. So we're going to ask a local fashion designer how she's handling the postal shutdown during this important time of year for her business.
Looking forward to that. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
That is Emily Brass hosting Up to Speed this afternoon. You can catch her from 3 to 6. Well, that is a wrap for the Monday edition of Radio Noon. I'll be with you all a week. Big thanks to the crew who helped put together today's show, Marshall Hodgins, May McKillop, and Kevin Nipatebo. Thank you so much, crew. I'm Corey Funk. Pleasure to be with you. And next up on CBC Radio 1, the next chapter. Have a good one.